Okay. All right. Okay. All right. What I'm about to show you is the wildest thing I've ever accidentally put together. Not clickbait, not hyperbolic, not dramatic. This is what Sever looks like in Season 6. Now you might notice the inclusion of a couple weird skills on our skill bar, and on top of that, the fact that you're not really looking at any damage numbers other than hundreds of millions of overpower damage. That's right, Sever's an overpower damage build now. Why would you not overpower? It's just strictly better than every other thing you could possibly do in this game. But you don't just overpower. 100% chance to crit, you have max attack speed breakpoint, you have 100% uptime on vulnerable, you're basically unkillable, even when you don't actively have Soul Rift active, and that's probably the wildest part. But the best part about this build is that you don't have to sit there spamming Corpse Explosion. Instead of casting Blight once every while and just kind of forgetting, you instead just cast Bone Spirit every other second, and then you overpower on Sever for, again, hundreds of millions of damage. It works against single targets, it works against groups of monsters. These are the biggest pulls I've been doing inside of pits at this level, and here's the ridiculous part. I started off today with a pretty run-of-the-mill Sever build. In fact, it's the Sever build that's currently on max roll. Why? Because it's a really smart way of building Sever, except there's a little bit of an issue with a very important stat that recently got changed in this season, and the fact that it just doesn't work. This season, the developers changed a lot of different chance to hit twice or chance to cast twice tempers over to double damage instead. Turns out doubling your damage is just a lot easier for the game to manage than hits twice and cast twice, since they come along with a bunch of different procs that come from when you hit and when you cast. Here's the problem though, chance for Sever to deal double damage doesn't work. Kind of. At least it doesn't work when you're using the best and newest toy that Sever has available to it, which is Reaping Lotus. Very specifically, Sever deals double damage does not trigger if you have Reaping Lotus up. It doesn't trigger on the initial Sever cast, it doesn't trigger on the additional Sever specters that fly out. It just straight up doesn't work. If you take off the aspect, it does. If you put the aspect on, it doesn't. Now considering Reaping Lotus more than like quintuples your damage on Sever, because not only is it a 3.4 times multiplier on a two-handed weapon, but then the 3 specters that shoot out of it all also carry that damage. So you get 4 of your Severs all doing over 3 times their damage. It's insane. But it doesn't work with double damage. And what that meant was that my Sever build was hard stuck at 85. I managed to clear it just in time, but every single pack was multiple minutes long of killing them, and what I basically had to do was pull the entire map onto one area. But you were unkillable. Just straight up, I couldn't die. It was very refreshing considering I'd just come from playing minions. But okay, Mac, that's all well and good. It doesn't work, but you got some damage. How did we end up on Overpower? Well, it just turns out every once in a while, 3% of the time speaking here, I would overpower, and I would go from doing about 50 to 60 million damage up to 300 to 400 million damage, because I had over 10,000 maximum life. Overpower is an insanely powerful scaler in this season because of the stat squish. Basically, you gain a bunch of additional damage between the difference between your max life and your base life, and when your base life drops all the way down to 400, and you can easily stack upwards of 20,000 maximum life on your character, the difference in ratio there is thousands of damage. Multipliers worth. But here was the problem. We couldn't make the build Overpower. Now there was a Crown of Lucian Banishlord's Talisman Sever build in the past. It required incredibly specific gear, and what it basically did was turn Sever into a bad version of Blood Surge, where every third or fourth cast, you would successfully overpower, you would do a megaton of damage, but the essence requirements and being able to manage it and not being able to spam it made all of the gameplay very clunky. I tried Crown of Lucian with Banishlord's Talisman. It felt terrible. I tried that, but still with Starless Skies, but with a bunch of ranks into Imperfectly Balanced, felt terrible. I tried it with Unmaker Helmet for more ranks in Imperfectly Balanced, but then also procs from Soul Rift. That did nothing. I don't know what I was trying to do there. I used the new rune word that says that every 800 offering, your next skill will overpower. Well, it turns out generating 25 offering per Sever cast meant that I was overpowering once every 24 attacks. And even when adding in Banishlord's Talisman there, the sincere lack of overpowers was drastically underperforming what just having a big multiplier on a powerful amulet for the build would normally do. We just had to find a way to proc Banishlord's Talisman quickly and in a controlled manner. That's where Bone Spirit comes in. You see, we don't care about the damage of Bone Spirit at all. In fact, we only have 1 rank in Bone Spirit. We just have a lot of plus ranks to core skills and plus ranks to bone skills, but the damage on it is completely inconsequential. Bone Spirit just spends all of your essence when it's cast. And on top of that, you can make it so that Bone Spirit will regenerate essence for you, and you can use a Macabre Temper to say that you automatically regain essence whenever you cast Bone Spirit. And what does that mean? Well, if you could find a way to cast Bone Spirit right all the way up to 275 essence, it would generate enough essence for you to then immediately be able to cast Sever, which would then proc a bunch of lucky hit effects, but most notably, it would eat the Overpower proc and do a megaton of damage, like you're watching right now. Now, the really interesting part is trying to get your maximum essence up to this level while using a two-handed sword to have the biggest bonus on Reaping Lotus, and while using helmets like Air of Perdition, which basically solves all of your critical strike chance, as well as adding a huge multiplier and a bunch of core skill so that you get even more damage multiplication out of it. On top of that, we want to use Starless Skies. Why? Because we want to be able to cast Sever with effectively no essence available, so we can continue to spam it. It's going to very slightly increase how often Banished Talisman procs, but in reality, it's just going to prep the proc, so you can then immediately hit it. So if you're using Banished Talisman, you're already using Starless Skies, you're using a helmet, and you can't use an offhand, getting a lot of maximum essence is going to be the last key to unlock being able to overpower every other attack. Well, what does Bone Spirit already really like? A combination of different uniques. So we basically just hijacked the entirety of the Overpower Bone Spirit kit, dumped it onto Sever, and retrofitted it so that it would work with how we were casting our skills. Path of Trigul is really powerful in that it's going to spit out 30 bone splinters. They're going to gain you 2 maximum essence every single time that they hit. Not only that, they come along with armor on their roll, which is going to be really important considering we're using 1, 2, 3 unique items that don't have any armor on them, and then it's also going to give us just base movement speed on it, which is really nice. Bone skills to reduce the cooldown of Bone Prison, and then further reduce the cooldown of Bone Prison even further, so we can reliably use it not only to deter monster attacks, but to continuously proc this. And I still wasn't getting far enough. I was using the maximum resource potion. I was trying to pick up as much maximum resource as I possibly can in my skill tree. Theoretically speaking, building up into Bone Graft, I could go get the Bone Graft node as well, but even that wouldn't get us far enough. We needed more maximum essence. Well, if we remember back to why we were doing this in the first place, our weapon temper doesn't work. Sever deals double damage doesn't work. What does that open up for us? Chance for Bone Splinters to cast twice. What this basically says is that I can generate up to 60 Bone Splinters, gaining me upwards of 120 maximum essence. 120 maximum essence plus our base maximum essence, which is 100. So now we're up to 220. Add on the potion, we're up to 245. Add on the 9 from our skill tree, we're up to 254. And what that basically means is that as long as I cast Bone Spirit and then 2 Severs right now, I will immediately proc Banished Talisman on the second hit, automatically overpowering, adding on an insane amount of damage potential. But what do you do once you can overpower? Like, sure, it's now overpowering, but what do you change about the build? Well, instead of using the vulnerable sacrifice from our mages, we can use the overpower one, strictly stronger. Rather than use some ramping mechanisms like Flesh Eater, which requires you to cast Corpse Explosion 5 times and you're basically doing no damage during all of that, why don't we just add on a big old 70% overpowered damage multiplier? Rather than using something like Scourge or Darkness to gain a damage bonus for our Darkness skills, we can just use Dominate. Dominate doesn't care what type of skill it is. As long as you overpowered, you're going to deal more damage, and it's going to further increase your damage, and it's going to come along with a ton of added overpower damage. And in fact, every single node that says overpower damage in your Paragon board is significantly stronger than any other additive node you'd be able to pick up anywhere else. Then it's kind of just figuring out how to fit the rest of the stats into the Sever build. Now, this is the wildest thing I've tried to do, and I'm just stoked for the fact that it works at all and clearly has a huge amount of ceiling left for us to explore. Now, do you have to build Sever this way? Absolutely not. You're just going to be hard stuck around tier 85, and then with perfect gear, maybe up to tier 90. But considering the fact that half of the glyphs I'm now using are still only rank 46, I haven't masterworked all this gear, I don't have greater affixes across 3 of the most important pieces of gear on the kit itself. I've had to retrofit a bunch of different stats onto here because I was originally doing the old Sever and I'm trying to fit the new Sever on. There is a huge amount of additional customization, optimization, and room for this thing to grow. And I need your help. I'm going to go ahead and include a planner down below in the comments and in the description. Again, I've never done this. I've never made this work. So if you've already been playing around with this, you've seen this somewhere else, or you've heard tales somewhere of an Overpower Sever build in this season, let me know. Let's connect with people. Let's theorycraft together. If you're somebody who's been piloting it and you have runs, etc., hit me up in DMs, hit me up on Discord, just leave a comment here. Let's work together. This thing's insanely cool. And until they fix the fact that Sever deals double damage doesn't work, I think it's the only way forward for Sever to actually push to the highest pit tiers that it's currently capable of. I don't really see anybody piloting the build, and it's because it's just not particularly strong due to this bug. But the best part is, once they fix the Sever deals double damage, you actually just need to get better gear to continue to maintain the maximum resource needed to be able to proc this so often, and then we'll just double the damage of this build too. Like, there's no downside here. Once they fix it, this thing just gets stronger as well as the base version of the build. But let me know what you think. Check out the planner. It's going to be pretty buck wild for right now. I don't know how you build into this without just having the gear necessary to do it. So if I can't come up with like a really good progression version of it, I'm just going to refer you to the base version of Sever. But again, thank you so much for watching this video. If you're new here, subscribe to the channel. If you think this is cool as much as I do, leave a comment down below, leave a like on the video. It helps out so much. I appreciate you being here, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.